Now let's bring in Batya Ungar-Sargon, opinion editor of Newsweek and author of a new book, Second Class: How the Elites Betrayed America's Working Men and Women. Batya, thank you so much for coming on the U.S. Report this evening. Now, before we go into politics, I think we've got to talk a little bit about pop culture and some really disturbing displays at the Oscars this year. First, we had Jewish director Jonathan Glazer use his acceptance speech to essentially renounce his Judaism.
Our film shows where dehumanization leads at its worst. It shaped all of our past and present. Right now, we stand here as men who refute their Jewishness and the Holocaust being hijacked by an occupation which has led to conflict for so many innocent people.
Then we had celebrities, including Billie Eilish, Mark Ruffalo, and many other stars wearing a pin, a lapel pin, featuring bloody hands. And I suppose they meant to say that the Israelis had blood on their hands, but to Israelis, this calls out the murder of two of their lot in 2000, who were kidnapped and murdered and their bodies paraded through the streets by Palestinians. And there was a famous photo you just saw of one of the killers proudly showing his bloody hands to a cheering crowd. Batya, is anti-Semitism now institutionalized in Hollywood, of all places?
You know, I have to say, James, there was a lot less sort of ceasefire, pro-Palestinian energy than I was expecting. There were really only a handful of stars wearing those pins. I know that to Israelis it evokes that imagery, but I can tell you Mark Ruffalo is not wearing a pin because he's thinking about that horrible, horrible moment. He's wearing it because he's a very nice person with very stupid politics. And, you know, this call for a ceasefire, right? I don't agree with it. I think it's wrong. I think it's bad for Israel. I think it's bad for America. But it is not inherently anti-Semitic. Now, the speech that Glazer gave, on the other hand, I want you to understand why so many Jews were so horrified by what he said. He said that he refutes his Jewishness and the Holocaust being used to justify the occupation. First of all, who is doing that? Nobody is out there saying because there was a Holocaust, therefore Israel can mistreat Palestinians. No one says that. So what he did was he invented a bad Jew to say, I'm not that. I am a good Jew. What he does is he is addressing the anti-Semites. He is giving succor and comfort to the anti-Semites, saying there are all these bad Jews out there. You're right. And I am the good Jew. What a disgusting thing to do after winning an award for a Holocaust movie.
Now, Batya, that's absolutely, I think that's absolutely cuts to the core of the matter. But I want to move then now on to the sort of the bigger political scene in the U.S. And it seems like American politics is starting to realign in ways that you have predicted and talked about in your work. And we're in the midst of a racial realignment with recent polling showing non-white voters shifting away from Democrats towards Republicans, and an economic realignment as well, with the richest now explicitly favoring Democrats over Republicans. Walk us through these numbers here and how this plays out into this idea that the Democrats have basically abandoned their working class roots.
Yes, thank you so much for pointing out that I've been right all along, James. One never tires of hearing such a thing. But yes, indeed, the people who have been talking about the realignment for all of these years, it turns out we knew what we were talking about. 9 of the 10 richest districts in America are now led by Democrats. 65% of people making more than $500,000 a year are now Democrats. 97% of donations from Silicon Valley go to Democrats, as well as 94% of donations from journalists. Did you know, James, that Wall Street in 2020 gave more money to Democrats than they did to Donald Trump? That's what we're seeing here, is a realignment. And, you know, they love to say white rural rage is what's fueling Donald Trump. It is a canard. It is nonsense. Joe Biden is losing Black and Hispanic working class Americans who are not defecting for the GOP. They are defecting for Donald Trump because he speaks to the working class of all races. And the Democrats, meanwhile, have abandoned labor to cater to highly educated college elites and the dependent poor on the bottom, people who don't work, meaning everybody else who is working class, who works with their hands for a living, who struggles for the American dream, the Democrats have turned their backs on them. And it's worse than that, James. With every utterance, with every bill, with every policy, they express their disdain for these people, not just the white working class, but increasingly working class of people of color.
Well, and, you know, just on the subject of going after the working class, this story here is a great microcosm of that. New York Attorney General Letitia James was famously booed at a New York firefighters ceremony last week, and there were reports that they were going to have a full investigation to find and punish those who booed Letitia James. She's a woman who's been going against Donald Trump in New York. Now, after publicity, the spokesman for the fire department said, no, we're not going to investigate. It's all fine. But just the fact that, you know, firefighters are booing a Democrat and that the Democrat regime is going after firefighters and you don't get more sort of, you know, peak of the honest working class than that, that's pretty telling, isn't it?
That's exactly right. This entire lawfare project against Donald Trump, which has been waged by elite Democrats with multiple degrees, right? The quintessential over-credentialed college elites stand in direct contrast to people like firefighters who have achieved the American dream through hard work, through skilled trades, through manufacturing, right? These used to be de rigueur, regular ways for average working class Americans to achieve the American dream. They're increasingly vanishing, but the areas where they remain, cops, firefighters, these are people that the Democrats can't stand because they have managed to achieve the American dream while circumventing the woke doctrination of a college degree, which is the only way that Democrats want you to be able to have an American dream. So that scene of them yelling, Trump, 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 right? That scene is you're exactly right, James. That is the realignment in one image.
And, you know, you spoke a moment ago about how just there's basically no policy that they won't do to go after ordinary people. This story made me so mad as a New Yorker because New York City is now going after pizza, and Mayor Eric Adams' environmental department has approved a plan that requires pizzerias with, you know, wood and coal fire ovens to cut their pollutants by 75%. Batya, is there any pleasure that normal people can take and enjoy that the elite will not go after?
By the way, it's not just pizza ovens, it's matzah ovens. I'm an Orthodox Jew, right? We need to make matzah for Passover. What are we supposed to do? Yes, you nailed it again, James. The Green New Deal is class warfare against the working class. It's always the working class who are asked to make sacrifices on the altar of the elite woke vanity.
Batya Ungar-Sargon, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for breaking it down for us, and we'll have you on again soon on the U.S. Report.